Welcome to In the Barracks, a place for prior and active duty service members, first responders, and their friends and family to hang out and talk about life. The Barracks is a place to share thoughts, ideas, accomplishments, and dreams with the goal of encouraging people to stay connected to the world and do the same for others.
Jimmy, tell them a little bit about your journey through childhood trauma, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and what you teach now. I mean, when I'm with you, I watch how kids react to you. And because of your calm serenity and, you know, all those things I've taught you about martial arts.
Yes, exactly, Sensei. Remember, guys, everything I know about martial arts, Mike taught me.
I don't know.
I don't know anything. No.
We've seen some of his fight scenes. Jimmy. Yeah, no. Some of the old fight scenes aren't very good.
Hey, when I'm doing yoga, I do the downward hog. But Jimmy, tell them, just give a little bit of a journey of what it was your sensei did for you. Just a little bit of the description of how you came to be to this man who literally enhanced your life and life being through martial arts.
Oh, absolutely. You know, well, first of all, I was born at a young age, and some of you guys will get that. But so I was
slow, dude.
I was born youngest of four, and I grew up in a very drug-filled, gang-filled, abusive household. Abusive in every way you can imagine. Let's put it that way. And that went on in my life for to about when I was 16 years old. And
where was that, Jimmy?
That was in Sacramento.
Okay.
That was in Sacramento. And I was also my mom's protector, because when she was getting beat on by my stepdad, I would be there. I wasn't smart enough to leave the house, so I wanted to protect her. My siblings, they would leave, and I would be there with my mom to protect her. And that also affected my life in relationships. I'll get into that later on. But, you know, and it wasn't until I was about 15, 16, when I got involved in martial arts. I started actually when I was 8, but when I really got involved in martial arts, when I was about 15, 16 years old, we were working out, and we had some guest instructors, and my instructor was talking with another student in the back room, and the rest of us was just goofing off, right? And he heard it, and he came out there, and he really listened to us. And then after class was over, he sat down with me, and he said, he asked me, how things was going. I told him I was having a rough day, and he didn't know anything about my life. And so he said, Jimmy, he said, I believe in you. And I looked at him really weird, and I'm like, what? And he said, I believe in you. And it was the first time ever I heard those words, that I believe in you. Those 4 simple words changed my life. Now, understand, because of the level of abuse I was going through, I didn't believe him. And so for the next couple of weeks, I would say, I watched him. I watched him like a hawk. I watched him with his wife. I watched him with his kids. I watched him with other students. I was trying to find a reason not to believe him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And because if I didn't have to believe him, then I didn't have to live up to that. And, he disappointed me, because I ended up realizing that he was a man of his word, and he really meant what he said. So I like, okay, I'm going to have to live up to this. And I wanted to become someone that he could really believe in. And so through that, it really helped me to kind of grow as a person. It made me make other choices, right? Because someone was actually looking at a young kid who was going through all this different childhood trauma not even knowing my life, and actually saying, I believe in you, speaking life. You know, I believe in the power of words, right? And I believe that, you know, death and life is in the power of our tongue, and you can either speak life to somebody or you can speak death to somebody. And this man chose to speak life to my life. And because of that, as I grew up, I got to this fork in the road. It was about maybe 16, 17, no, maybe 18 years old, where I said, I can use my experience in life to either as an excuse to hurt other people or as a reason to help other people. You know, as Michael's always taught me, you know, hurt people hurt people. And a lot of people doing that, they're hurting, they're angry. Even right now in this COVID situation we're in, a lot of people are feeling this, and so they're taking it out on other people. And I wanted to use mine as a reason to help other people. I didn't want other people to go through the same kind of pain or hurt that I went through, or not even have a voice to use to be able to talk about that pain and that hurt. And then that led me into wanting to go into ministry. Led me to wanting to really have a voice for people who felt they didn't have a voice, and just kind of speak out for them. And then I started going into schools, and then I met. It was interesting. I was watching a PBS special, and Michael Pritchard was on it, and I was looking at this guy and going, "He's doing exactly what I want to do." And
Awesome.
I was working as a physical education teacher at the time, and I was over at All Saints in Hayward, and I was talking with Mike, you remember his name, Steve, good buddy of yours. Anyway, I was talking with him, and he said, Jimmy, what do you want to do? Do you want to continue to be a PE teacher? He says, what do you want to do? He says, you're so great with kids. What do you want to do? I said, you know, I really want to go out and speak. And he said, you know what? You got to meet a good friend of mine. And I have been praying about this for a while. And he says, he's a good family friend. And I said, okay. And he said, his name is Michael Pritchard. My jaw hit the ground. I was just like, Michael Pritchard. And he says, yeah. And I said, the guy on the PBS, I said, I was just watching him a couple of weeks ago. And he says, yeah. And so he told me where he was going to be speaking at. This is when the Gwen O'Rara story had happened about the transgender. And this was in Newark. And so I went to go meet Michael. And I'm thinking, this guy is larger than life, right? So he's not going to have time for me.
That's a polite way of saying fat.
Say what?
That's a polite way of saying fat.
Oh, yeah, okay. Exactly. And he had this little bodyguard with him, which I was bigger than he was, but it was okay. So after I met him, he said, you know, hang around and I'll sit down with you and we'll talk. Well, I'm thinking that I'm probably only going to get maybe 5-10 minutes with him. He sat down with me for 45 minutes, and from that point on, we developed a relationship, a friendship, a brotherhood that has gone on for, you know, over years now, over decades now.
And Jimmy, tell them about, you know, how, you know, because your sensei took you to national championships in martial arts. What was the drive there for your excellence that now you not only practice it, you teach Bushido, but you live that warrior spirit to teach the inner calm that it takes to not go to violence, to not go to anger, to not go past the serenity that is inside you. And why is that so important for so many women and men in our culture to learn that warrior spirit?
You know, it's like I said before, hurt people. And I'm not a violent person, and I never wanted to, because I've been around violence for so long that, you know, even in competition, you know, it's great to be a national champion and a state champion. People look at that and go, oh, wow, you know, you must fight all the time. Like, no, I fight more mentally and emotionally and spiritually than I do physically. And so I wanted to be the best I could be. That was one of the drives. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to stand out, right? Because I wanted to be an example to anyone else that I came across, any of my students that I was teaching, so that they'd have someone to look up to. Because again, remember, before my instructor, I had no one to look up to. And I really believe, especially in a kid's life, it's important for them to have some kind of mentor in their life, someone that they can look up to, someone that, takes them by the hand and stands up with them and beside them. And with all the things that's going on now, as I said before, with all the COVID and all the increase of violence, as a matter of fact, I was talking with a friend the other day. Actually, I had to go over a friend's house to take her out of her house because her boyfriend got drunk and was beating up on her. And this happened for like 3-4 days. I was going over there, taking her out, and then I finally had to call the cops. And it just reminded me of he was going through a lot. He was going through a lot of hurt, a lot of pain because his mom had just died and everything. And not that that's an excuse, but when people are in that state,
right,
all they can do is just lash out at other people. And so my goal was always to be like a beacon of hope, a light for other people, so that they can look at me and not go, oh, wow, look at this guy, because, I still have my challenges. It doesn't look like it, but I still have my challenges and things that I go through in life and stuff. But I just wanted to be someone that, and the drive that really drove me, I wanted to be someone where someone would look at me and go, if this guy can do it, then I can do it, right?
Tell them about that moment when we were down south.
When you almost got me in a fight?
Yes.
Yeah, let's hear that one.
Oh my God! So we were. No, was it down where we were down south? I think it was, and it was this group of guys driving by in a car, and they were gangbangers, and we get out of the car, and these guys are giving us these really hard looks, right? And I'm used to seeing that, right? I grew up in that environment. I don't think Mike was used to seeing that. And so they look at Mike.
Everybody's nice in Marin, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They look at Mike and they say something, right? And I'm on the passenger side, so I can hear it too. So I get out of the car. And so they make a U-turn, they drive back around. And Mike is getting ready to say something. And I look at him and go, Mike, no. And he goes, why? I said, because I'm the one who's going to be doing all the fighting, right? we have many stories like that. There was
Yeah, but in all fairness, you could have used Mike as a human shield. Don Johnson did it on that episode of Nash Bridges.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There was one time we were in, I'm working actually on a couple of books, and one is called Road Trips with Pritch, and we were in Marin, and we got lost. And Mike went to Sirius, and he felt we were getting wrong directions. He said, this thing is stupid. And Sirius actually said, that wasn't very nice. And I looked at him and go, did you do that or did it do that? He goes, I had nothing to do with that. I'm like, you didn't need to stop talking then. Because it took us all around, and we were like maybe a half hour away from where we were supposed to be at. And it took us everywhere else than where we were supposed to be.
It gave us really bad directions for like 30 minutes.
Yes.
Siri was angry. It was hurt. It was crushed and directed. And I kept saying, is this thing like, it's going, take a left here. And I'm going, this is giving bad directions. And he and I start laughing. I go, we're going to be late.
I felt like we were circling the drain.
Yeah.
In Marin?
Yeah.
Not Marin County.
Yeah, in Marin County, we've had a recent rash of drive-by slappings. we had somebody have their cornea scratched from a cashmere sweater. It was brutal.
It's tough over there.
Police officers in Ross don't have guns. They have broken Perrier bottles.
Jimmy, how old were you during the competitive days, the martial arts competitive days? What age age are we talking about there?
You know, when I first got my state championship, I was 17.
Okay.
And when I got my national championship, I was 20. I actually started with my cousin, who started me in Wing Chun Kung Fu, and when I was 8 years old. And the reason why I got involved in martial arts was, in the beginning, was because I wanted to be able to protect myself from my older brothers. And then they started learning martial arts. And I'm going, great, now they're gonna learn techniques of how to beat me up. This is great, this is awesome. My sister didn't have to, she had a mouth and that was it. But then they quit, they stopped, and which I was thinking like, yes, all right, there is a God. And it was interesting because as we got older and they knew how to go out in the streets and start fights, they just didn't know how to finish it. They would always run to the house to me and say, hey, I need you to come help me fight. And I would say, you know what, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna make sure nobody else jumps in, but this fight is yours. So it was kind of my payback because I knew that the guy that they were fighting was much bigger than they were. So I'm like, okay, go for it. I'm just gonna make sure nobody else steps in.
And then here you are, however many years later, and Pritchard's trying to get you into fights too. It never ends. In Marin.
Just like my older brother.
Well,
I love
you
it.
can tell he's a Marine Corps cop, can't you? You know,
Yeah.
that's their favorite line is, let's you and he fight.
Yes.
Right. Ooh.
That's what they call in the barracks talk.
Right.
We've had some really great road trips. Mike doesn't stop at stop signs. If you guys ever rode with him, he doesn't stop at stop signs.
You're giving it up.
We were driving down the street and he kept driving and he was talking. He kept driving. I said, stop sign. And all of a sudden he looked up. We were almost past it. We just passed it. And he goes, oh, that was a stop sign back there. I was like, yeah, that was a stop sign. So now every time I get in the car with him, that's the first thing I yell out, even if it's not a stop sign, because I want to make sure that he knows that one is going to come up at some point when we're driving.
That ADD
put him on alert.
in, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's never a dull moment. We were at Black Bear one time. This was in Marin. We were getting the Black Bear, and we were out of his black car. What kind of car is that, Michael?
Oh, yeah.
So
It's a Ford Flex, buddy.
I'm dressed in all black. He's dressed in all black, and I kid you not, Black Bear started playing. What was it? Men in Black? No, it was.
There's a man who lives a life of secret agent man.
Yeah, it was Secret Agent Man, and we had just stepped out the car at the same time, and that song was playing in Black Bear.
And we were both in sunglasses. I go, uh-oh. And you can see people were looking at us like, oh, because we just started laughing.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing that's great about travel and in California is, like, when I first met Jimmy, what he's talking about, the Gwen Araujo case was a young transgender that was murdered by 3 young men at a high school. And they asked me to come and speak to the whole school. And the essence of the talk was, where was hate taking our world? And this goes back, I think, to 25 years. I don't know how long ago, when I first met Jimmy. And the reason I wanted to spend so much time with him was I could, as I have done so many times before, sense young people who have a wisdom in them that can be bearing out and helping me. So you're creating your own enlightened reinforcements to sustain you in your work. And he has been every bit of that and even more, like you guys have, for the work that we do. You create in people you mentor or help or assist or inspire along the way, those people that are going to help you. And it's really important for people to get this. Take time to spend time encouraging the young dentist who you're teaching. For Steve, what he does every day at Cypress School, teaching those kids to tell their own stories on video by mentoring them, and taking them and making them part of his film crew. And Jimmy does this as well because he's inspired a whole group of kids. When he got up at Fremont High School and he spoke in front of the kids, it was bone-chilling how quiet they got. Because I got up and introduced him by using comedy, but then he got up and started to tell the story of his early childhood trauma. Most of them have never had a speaker talk about such a serious topic. And their teacher was moved. I was moved. And you could see that the kids who began to share their own traumas helped alleviate the suffering of aloneness that comes with having to suffer trauma in silence.
Right.
And that when you share that and you give of yourself as he does in front of Catholic schools and Christian schools where we go, he lifts them up and inspires them by saying, I've gotten here. I'm with Mike. I've gotten here because I chose to share my life's sorrows and the grief that came with it to help you understand that we need to look inside for the answers. And he's a remarkable speaker at doing that. And I'm always proud to be around him. We have seen some ugly.
Yes.
We've gone to some ugly situations and murders and shootings and things like that. Mm-hmm. And he knows exactly how to share from heart before it becomes that tragedy that we see from young people who are traumatized and alone and cry with bullets instead of tears.
Right. You know, I want to give you guys a word that has really helped me and that I use when I'm talking with kids, and the word is risk. And that's R-I-S-K, and it stands for learning to take responsibility of your own behavior, okay, of your feelings, of your emotions, and also learning to reach out to other people. And the I stands for to isolate the pain, not the person. You know, when you go to a doctor and you tell a doctor you hurt in a certain place, and they may touch your arm, touch here, and they say, well, how long has this been hurting? It's because they're trying to isolate the pain. And a lot of times what we end up doing, we end up isolating the person and bringing the pain out more, right? And so we want to isolate the pain and not the person. Mm-hmm. And the S is simple, it's self-love. One of the challenges I had growing up is I didn't know how to love myself. No one taught me how to love myself. And so therefore I got into relationships where I poured more love out on them than I did for myself, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. Again, like I said, being my mom's protector, I thought that's what I needed to do. I needed to be people's protector in that sense. And that meant that I wasn't authentic in those relationships because I couldn't ask and have my needs fulfilled because I was too busy trying to fulfill their needs and making sure that they're happy. And I used to always say that as long as you're happy, I'm happy, which wasn't true and wasn't authentic. And so learning how to self-love and also learning how to separate yourself from negativity, you know, from negative relationships. And then the K is for knowledge, gaining as much knowledge as you can about how you interact with people and what people are looking for. And then once you get that knowledge, the other part of it is keep moving. Don't just get it and stay still, just keep moving with that knowledge and then spread that knowledge to anyone and everyone that you possibly can. So, you know, R-I-S-K, risk, and that's what I've learned to do in my life, and that's what I teach other people to do is, hey, take a risk, you know, because that's what's going to help you get through what you're going through.
Great. Awesome, Jimmy. Awesome.
You know, if you ever watched him when he talks to the kids, and even what's really remarkable is the kids that he's most helped and has been the coach for, they surround him. He's magnetic when they come up to talk to him because he's gentle and calm, and he's an enormous big guy. And people just, we go out and we do stuff with the San Francisco Junior Giants.
Yes.
And it's amazing because when you work these situations and teach kids not to become a bully, and one of the greatest gifts, as Jimmy has mentioned, is that unaddressed grief turns to anger, the anger to rage, blame, accuse, shame, humiliate, shun, shift away from. But the most important thing is to teach them to go inward for the answers and not outward for the excuses.
Yeah.
And this is what he's a genius. And that, I actually think that martial arts has such a calming influence on young people. Why do you think if we could get martial arts into every school, Jimmy, and I'm not talking about, fighting. I'm talking about learning to defend oneself to the point of non-aggression. Why is it so important to teach that, Jimmy? Because what can it do for anger management and calm control?
Michael, that's a great question. For me, martial arts is about empathy. I know that sounds kind of weird because it seems like such a contact thing, but it really is, because once you know what you know in regards to martial arts, once you know what you can do to somebody, all of a sudden you have empathy for that person. You're like, I don't want to do that. I had instances where I remember when I was in Sacramento, I was working in private security. I was at Mercy Hospital, and I had this guy. They called me up. They said, "Stat, we need security." So I came up, and it was this guy. He was already outside, and his arm was bleeding, and he was drunk, and he was cursing me out. He was calling me every name in the book but the child of God. And so he's yelling and screaming at me at the top of his lungs. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, so we have other patients that are trying to sleep, and I'm standing there, and he's right there in my face, and I can smell the alcohol on him. And yes, in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to knock this dude out, right? And, because, I'm human. And so, but I'm sitting there, I'm listening to him, and there's a guy behind him who I didn't know was his father at the time, but he's waving his arms like this, trying to tell me he was drinking, which I wasn't paying attention to. And after the guy finished, about maybe 5 minutes of just berating me with all these names and threats, I looked at him and I said, "Are you done?" And then he backed away from me and he started crying right there. Because for me, having that sense of calmness and what I've learned from my sensei is martial arts really is about love. It's about empathy. It's about sharing a gift with someone where you want to protect them, but you don't have to do it violently. And just knowing the fact that you can defend yourself if you have to, gives especially young kids a lot of confidence, which is lacking in a lot of our kids today. And it gives them that power to be able to decide what groups they want to hang out. Like, I don't have to hang out in this group because this group is the toughest group, because I know what I can do and I don't need their protection. I don't need them to stand behind me because I can stand on my own if I need to. And I know as I was going through school, I had a lot of people, especially in high school, I had a lot of people wanting to challenge me, not knowing that I knew anything, until they saw me do an exhibition at the fair. And the following year, all of a sudden, I had all these friends that I didn't know of. Right?
I'll bet.
They're like,
No,
we were talking all this.
They were just afraid.
Yeah, they were
No,
like,
let me guess. They were picking fights for you to finish, just like Mike and everybody else. Right?
Exactly. But they would tease me. They would talk about me because I had a really bad speech impediment, and so they would call me stupid and dumb and all that other stuff. I even had teachers to say that as well too. It's interesting that people told me I couldn't talk, and I had teachers tell me that I shouldn't do anything that had anything to do with speaking because of my speech impediment. And now I travel the country doing exactly what people told me I couldn't do.
Look at you now.
But
right.
because of a lot of that's because of, one, my martial art instructor, who instilled that confidence and that belief in me, who actually said, I believe in you. And I tell kids all the time, 4 words changed my life from where it could have been to where it is today. You know, having someone say, I believe in you. And again, as Michael was saying, just being able to have that in the schools, even if it's in martial arts, not just someone going in there and speaking, but even if it was in martial arts, you know, I really believe in that kids would start understanding more about what they can do versus what they can't do.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of emotional discipline, huh, Jimmy?
Yes, a lot. Yes, a lot of emotional. Because even now, I still have people who will say things to me, who will call, give me racial slurs and just it's interesting. It's like we're in this COVID thing, and I'm wearing a mask. And I was at the store the other day. I had a mask on. I was in sweats because I just got through working out, and I had a little hoodie on, and so I had a mask. And I'm getting a movie from Redbox. And as I'm getting my movie out, I had these promotional codes, and I asked this person next to me, hey, would you like a free code? And he looks at me. First, he looks me up and down, and he freaks out and goes, no, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm going, your mask is scarier than my mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right, Steve. I mean, it takes a lot of emotional fortitude. It takes a lot of, looking past not just the physical threat, but also the verbal threats, and emotional threats. Because it would be so easy to go, you know what? I know what I can do to you, and this is what I'm going to do. Rather than saying, you know what? You have no idea who I am. And so I'm just going to let you stay ignorant, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but let you stay ignorant and let you say and do whatever you want to do, as long as you're not physically trying to hurt me or anyone that I'm with, and we're good, and I can walk away from that. And that gives me a peace within myself to be able to do that.
That's power. That's true power, isn't it?
Yes. Well, and it also comes from, my instructor was also a very strong, devout Christian as well too, and because I was trying to grow up in that way, just having his faith in me and being able to have conversations with him, he was like my first mentor in my life, of course. Just having that faith has really helped me, has really grounded me, as even more so than my martial arts. But the combination of the two has really made me who I am today.
That faith has to be placed out by example. Correct, Jimmy?
Correct. Absolutely.
Yep. Good.
Jimmy, what do you think you've learned the most about yourself from going out since you've began this speaking career and out there with Mike and then out there on your own? Like, what have you learned the most about yourself, do you think?
Great question.
Oh, that's a great question. What have I learned the most about myself? What I've learned most about myself is that I have a gift that started when I was 8 years old, as far as speaking. It was a gift that was given to me, and I've learned that gift multiplied with the passion that I have behind that has really helped me to be able to impact other people's lives in a way that I've never been able to do before. Even in martial arts, being able to go out there and to speak life into these kids' life, it really frees my soul and really touches my soul. And that's one of the things that I've always wondered and questioned about myself, but can I actually do this? Can I actually make an impact? Can I be an impact player in people's lives? And not just martial arts. And being able to go out there, especially when you go out there and you have to follow after Michael, right? It's like everyone's looking, they're laughing, they're having a great time, and you're going, I have to follow that act, right? And know that I don't have to be Michael, that I can be me and still have the impact in their lives has been a tremendous learning process for me.
Great. Do you ever get surprised when you're out there?
I do. I get surprised by the tears. I get surprised when I'm talking and there's a group of girls and even guys that look like they're all tough and big and bad, and I say something to them and they start crying because I know it touched their heart. You know, I get surprised when teachers tell me, okay, I know you want to bring kids up here to talk, but these kids are not going to do that because they're not going to they're not going to embarrass themselves in front of their peers. They're not going to talk about, being bullied or anything. And my surprise is when I have to turn kids away. And Michael and I have both experienced this, when we have to literally turn kids away because we have so many kids wanting to come up to share what's going on in their lives about, being bullied and how they were treated and how they think we should treat other people.
Right. Jimmy, what's your, of course, we're talking about it right now, but ultimately moving forward after COVID, what do you think your advice would be to this younger generation, just spiritually, emotionally, physically?
I would say, let me sum that up kind of in one word, because it's what's really helped me in so many ways: forgiveness.
Wow.
Forgiveness. When you're walking around with, just take me as a kid. If I walked around with all that hate and anger and bitterness and disappointment and shame and blame and all that stuff that was put on me as a kid, and I kept walking around with it, then I would be doing more damage to myself. And until we learn how to truly forgive one, it starts with forgiving ourselves. And that was one of the biggest things I had to do. I had to learn how to forgive myself and realize what's happened to me wasn't my fault. It wasn't something that I did, because a lot of times people who've been in those situations think it must be something I've done, right? And it's like, so I have to forgive myself and release that, and then I have to forgive them, and sometimes it may take going back to that person and saying, I forgive you, without looking for anything back. I know I did that when I was age 25 with my family. I went to each one of my siblings and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, you made my life a living hell, but I forgive you. And then I sat down with my parents, because I wouldn't go over my family's house for holidays or anything. And around the holidays, I would get real depressed because I wanted to see them, but then again, I didn't want to communicate with them. I didn't want to be around them because there was so much pain and so much hurt that was still there, and the forgiveness hadn't happened yet. And I remember going to my parents and sitting down with them and say, hey, look, I just need to tell you this. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not looking for anything. I don't need anything from you. I just need to leave this here and let you know that I forgive you for everything that I've gone through in this household. And it broke them. And I'm the person that they look to. I'm the youngest, but they look to me as the oldest. When everything goes wrong in the family, I'm the one that gets the call. And so what I would say to the kids, especially, you got these kids right now that feel like cheated from their graduation, or cheated from, whether it's 8th grade graduation, whether their senior graduation, cheated from being able to be around their friends. They're locked in. Unfortunately, some of these kids are locked in shelter with their abuser, and they can't get away because school was a way for them to be able to escape, like it was for me. And so you got a lot of kids that's coming out angry and bitter and sad and depressed. And it starts with forgiving. And forgiveness doesn't mean that these people get a pass. It just means that you breaking that chain where they no longer, whatever they've done no longer controls what you're going to do.
Yep.
And so that to me is really the key thing for all of us coming out of this situation.
Well, that's awesome. And that's, I think, when some healing can start to happen, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you're doing it, my friend. You are a beacon of hope, man. And
thank you so much.
Keep doing your good work. It's just, you got a great story, and you got some good, a lot of gifts to share with this world.
I appreciate that.
Amen. Amen.
I love what you guys are doing too, and I want to be as much a part of that as I possibly can. So whatever I can do to help out, promote, whatever I need to do, just let me know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I gotta say
So-
something in full disclosure too. When I don't know if it's because the word believe has 2 syllables, but when you said 4 words change your life, I believe in you, I actually had to count those on my leg. I was like, I believe in you, making sure it was 4 words.
And let me
I
tell
love
you,
it.
and let me tell you why. He was a Marine Corps policeman.
It's true. Oh man, that's
So
true.
let me just say this to you before we leave. When I first met you, as I do with many people, I never knew the strength of your spirit, the wisdom of your soul, and the ability to inspire in your heart. But today, in this conversation, and with us, and always, Jimmy, no matter whether we're traveling down the highway together or just laughing together, you make me happy. You bring joy to me. It's always a pleasure to have you around my kids and family and my grandson. And I just don't want you to teach my grandson Braun how to hurt me. That's all.
You know what? From what I hear, he can pretty much do that on his own.
Yeah,
I've had a couple of headbutts in my crotch area that put me to the floor, for sure. Jimmy, thank you so much. You are an awesome
thank you.
and a great man. Appreciate your being
I'm
on.
honored to be with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
That's
it's
all.
been a privilege, Jimmy. Appreciate being here.
You're a gift to us, brother. Thank you. And thank you for helping kids all the time.
Thank you. And thank you for being such a great mentor and a great example for me as well, too, Michael.
I love you, Jimmy.
I love you too, buddy.
Thanks.
Love you guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Have a blessed day.
Appreciate
You
you.
too.
Jimmy.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the Barracks. To learn more about our hosts, guests, and how to support Vets Mobile Dental Unit, visit www.inthebarracks.org.